I'm Brad and this is Oren Duma. We're at StarTelecom. We're contact center specialists that have now expanded our scope to be looking after conversational AI as well. And today we want to talk about some building blocks to creating those blended human and AI interactions. With our expertise in contact center, it's been a bit of a transitionary phase now, starting to introduce conversational AI, and a lot of our customers haven't necessarily gone through that transition, which is one more reason why we're trying to establish something that can guide customers to introducing new channels and mediums to their customers, and especially ways that they're able to set that stage, starting it off with potentially internal use cases. So today we're going to be looking at an overview of just what the landscape does look like a little bit. Then we're going to be touching on internal use cases as our building blocks. What could they be? Some examples from what we're doing at StarTelecom, as well as what we're introducing with our customers. Next, we're going to be looking at external use cases. And this is why it's right now seen as a bit of a daunting experience to go and start introducing, especially generative AI, or even the prospect of generative AI being customer facing. So what does that path look like? And for the last one, I think we've got, I'm not even sure if the audio is going to work, just depending on how things have worked with AV so far. But we've got an AI to introduce our last, topic. So,
We can see.
Well, okay, so if you heard that, we had a little bit of, I think that might have been a hallucination, because that was a generative summary of what our quality management looks like. But we are going to look at AI in the contact center, what full autonomy could look like in the future. But there was a little bit at the end, if you heard it, which you might not have, which said, and replace all contact center agents and QM managers. That's not our intent. And there's not really the intent to get rid of everyone, so I think that was just a Gen AI problem. But it's something that we do want to talk about because Kore right now, and this is not a product-centric conversation, but Kore is doing something that we've already started talking to our customers about, which is how do you compartmentalize entities in the way that topics are identified, in the way that you can quality manage specific smaller subsets of a call rather than the call at large. And it's something that we think is the ability and where we're going to create some more or move towards a full autonomous quality management. So what you might be able to take away by the end of this, we're looking at that path to self-service and AI, identifying the strategy and models of where you can go. We're going to be looking at also some things that are not necessarily about AI. And for an AI conference, I know that that's going to be a little different, but again, we want to bring traditional changes that I think in a lot of cases when we go to AI, you lose, customers have lost track with some of the nuanced small changes that can still make a big impact. For instance, one thing that we've done with a few of our customers is the ability to just make the welcome greeting for agents. Agents go through this repetitive task every day, 50, 70, 100 calls, where they go through that process of saying, hi, my name is Brad Chimachenko. Hi, my name is, followed by the company. So we introduced a welcome greeting, just so that they don't need to say their name on the introduction every time. And it's little things like that that still have a tangible impact. And again, you don't want to lose like the forest for the trees. When you start implementing these things, sometimes foundational elements are important as well to look back on. What we're specifically not going to get into are complex routing models, some unique and niche AI use cases. We don't want to be overly complex. We want to be relatively generic, but still look at vertical specific use cases. Because we know that a lot of the customers that are here today, and for yourselves, I'm just going to talk because it's so intimate right now. For yourselves, is everyone in the room Kore deployed or deployed with Kore? No? Not yet, but looking at it. This month? Oh, very cool. Okay, and how about some of the others in the room? Yourself?
We're working with one client.
With one client? With Kore. Okay, so one use case. Oh, very cool. Okay. So those building blocks, they're starting. And I imagine that everyone here, that for yourselves, it's a low complexity, but high volume use case, something that's going to really have a punch internally when you can say it's done its job. Okay. And lastly, what we really don't want to get into is anything that's a product comparison. That's not the point here. I like to think of when we're going about an AI journey, and I'll just tell you a little bit of a story for myself, as a comparison to how people start traveling. If anyone here are travelers in the room, it's relatively difficult to just kind of put your finger on a map if you've never traveled before and said, I want to go here and I want to have a great time. It's far too generic to go and do that. So my fiance and I, we started traveling about four years ago. We've hit now multiple continents and we've gone all over the world. It's been a phenomenal journey. But when we started, our history had just been go to a resort, drink on the beach. And we thought that was traveling. And it is. If that's what it is, that's perfectly okay. But for ourselves, we needed to start honing in on what we really wanted to do, what was going to make a difference in our ability to go and look at traveling for the future, have conversations with ourselves. It's the experiences. So we started talking to ourselves about, okay, well, what do you like? Okay, hot, cold, sure. Started narrowing it down. Do you like experiences? Maybe. I'm not sure what there is out there. But I like to go skydiving. I like to do a few other things. So, okay, we like experiences. We want to talk about these things. So we started focusing down that conversation about where do we want to travel. And now we've climbed Kilimanjaro. We've gone to a few other places, gone to Iceland. And again, it's been something that it took us time, though, to start focusing and narrowing down the experiences we really wanted. And similarly with your AI journey, you can point out one specific use case, and that's more than fine, and that's the way that you start moving. But if you just go about it in a generic fashion, AI, you don't have those building blocks. And it's a bit too, it's far too grand, the landscape these days, to just go about it in a way that is broad. So you need to go about those questions internally, identify what's going to make that impact, what's going to matter. So I'm sure some of you have seen these stats before, but 32% of customers that were surveyed, it was about 2,000 or 3,000 customers that were part of the survey, had mentioned that they are willing to stop using a company after a single interaction. And for the retail industry specifically, or in transactional industries, this is something to be very focused on, because with the commoditization of being able to purchase, let's say, or change from company A to company B, that becomes something that yourselves need to be heavily aware of. If we introduce AI in a lackadaisical way, or a way that maybe it impacts that transaction, it's something that you can lose customers based off of. And I know that seems like it's a no-brainer, but it's something to be aware of. And then, well, actually, I'm going to go over to Zoran right now because I know you've got your microphone.
You're doing well.
Fair enough. And
no, I just wanted to add, when we were preparing this presentation, I looked at some of these numbers, and 32% seemed pretty high. People that are going to abandon. My knee-jerk reaction was I immediately started thinking about my hydro company. I don't like them, but I can't really drop them. But when you start thinking about the retail experience, where you can buy a thing from this guy, that guy, it's all the same price. Then that's when you start dropping, this guy because of bad experience, because they offended you in a way at some point in time, and so.
That's exactly it. And again, the difference is that in some verticals, that of course is not going to be the case, right? Zoran mentioned when we were talking about this, you can't just switch utility providers in a lot of places, or at least just on the fly. In some countries you can. We're from Canada. We're a little bit hairpinned by which providers we can change from. I can't even change my cell carrier. But when you're in the retail space, and again, it is something that you can just say, I like that shirt or I like that blazer, and I can go from one place to the other. It's about the shipping, self-service. It's about the ability to track that shipment, make sure that it's accurate. But if you go and you talk to someone about something that gets sent to yourself, and let's say it is a T-shirt and it's got threads pulled, those types of experiences, you really need to go and make those positive. Otherwise, you know that you're going to be losing that customer. Now, that being said as well, I really like, I'm an electronics guy, and I just had a TV shipped to myself, and it has a whole set of dead pixels. And I have personally no way to send that TV back because I brought it through Amazon, and it's a 75-inch TV. And how do I send that back if I don't have a truck? So that's one that's not necessarily isolated to the manufacturer itself. Things happen, but I just can't send that back, and so that's a problem. But the second one that really stood out to ourselves is the 78%. And this is giving up on a transaction because of a negative experience. So do any of yourselves, have you guys used any banking apps for ourselves? I like Wealthsimple, not toting it, but do you guys know what Wealthsimple is as a product? Okay, so
Maybe it's a Canadian thing.
Canadian thing. So it's a financial institution, and what they've done is they deployed a chatbot, and it definitely disrupts their industry. That chatbot handles about 90% of my interactions. Just FAQs, simple things. But in that vertical, knowledge is power, and I don't want to talk to someone for an hour to go and find out, am I making the right decision? That chatbot's able to guide me along my entire journey, and they've kept me as a customer. And personally, I'm a huge advocate for them. I'm talking about them today. But the negative side of that is I've worked with many other financial institutions that don't have the ability to go and personalize my routing, make sure that I'm being brought in as Brad Chumachenko, someone knows me, they know the products that I'm working with, and that's a phenomenal external-facing use case for themselves, but it's also been something that's working with their adoption, especially in my demographic, my age group range. Now, this one is something that also blew us away. And I think this is important to be aware of, is that the demographics today that you're working with have a different mindset in their ability to be vocal and talk to people about what their positive or negative interaction was. And 75% of Gen Zers are saying that they're sharing an online review for an unfavorable experience.
Imagine the pressure, when you're building customer experience, In the past, somebody has a bad experience, they can tell their little circle of friends, but now, the internet is out there, you post it, they have followers, it's all over the place.
And that review now just runs rampant, it goes viral.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about a negative experience. So again, that pragmatic approach to what and why are you rolling out AI as well, and we're going to get to that in a moment, is very important because people are willing to share those experiences. So we went through, and what we do at Star is that we work with companies on the implementation and the support. So we're going through RFPs, and one RFP stood out to myself because this is a healthcare company that now, and it is starting to become more prevalent, but you see an RFP that's being released, and there's a few keynotes here. Personalized responses for employee inquiries is the first thing that they want to tackle in this RFP, and it's a mandatory requirement. I think 2-3 years ago, all the RFPs that I've done, I really haven't seen anything about self-service in an RFP response. Now that's North America-wide at least for the RFPs that we're looking at, and generally it's SMBs and to mid-market companies. But even in the RFPs now, they're looking at internal use cases as something that they want to have tackled. Now, why is it internal first? I think it's the risk aversion that most companies are still going through. Why would I roll something out that we don't necessarily know how it works to an external-facing company first? No, instead we go internal. So with that, relevance matters. So Zora, I know that for ourselves at StarTelecom, we're starting to become more intimate when it comes to the AI, Core, Genesis. But what are we doing as an internal-facing use case?
We're really excited about what we learned here about the search things and ability to introduce AI into search, because as we're growing, we are going through some growing pains, organizing the internal documentation, because right now we have something on Confluence, we have something on Google Drive, something in Microsoft as we are shifting around. Access to all of those documents, it's really difficult. So we are trying to do the search AI. And what I was also excited to hear, I don't know how it works, but we'll be looking into that. I was excited to hear that there are built-in access restrictions, because obviously, on our Google Drive we have one folder for sales, one folder for HR, one folder. So, when you scour those documents, you don't want to disclose somebody's salary, to somebody else, So I'm really interested to see those search AI capabilities, to bring all of that together. Also, with the number of customers, as we're growing, initially when you start, all our support people know all of our customers, they're on a hey buddy basis, but as we're growing, more and more of people are calling in, for support. They're not really known to our support. So kind of those searches, that pop up immediately, what kind of plan the customer is on, is it on platinum support, is it on regular support, then who the authorized people are, we want that to pop up immediately to employees. And also, for some of the things that we're doing, I mean, it's more or less pretty standard. Somebody in a contact center, there is a crackling voice, so they call us, we pull that call, go through the Homer logs, see where the call went, see if we have some quality measurements on that call, because most likely it's coming from the caller or something like that, So those are the things that we are planning to use. So for our support people to get in, to find the solution fast, to find the proper document with the instructions what to do, it speeds up our support. Yeah.
And also it standardizes it across the board so that regardless of a support staff that's just hired now, and the onboarding process is much quicker. But the supportability that we can provide is also consistent now across all of our clients.
Yeah.
One thing that it definitely made us do as well is we had to go through a bit of a data organization or a data restructure, I could call it. Because at one point or another, there was data flowing all over the place. Customer A was documented in one way, customer B was documented in another way. But when we start looking at things like a search assist internally or something that can at least standardize our approach regardless of the customer that we're working with, we had to organize what our deployments look like for every customer. What customer has chat, voice, email, how it's configured on Genesis. And now we're able to go and provide that support consistently. So it's interesting for ourselves because we also are going through that same process of what and why do we deploy AI, or what do we deploy AI for? And we're trying to find something that is hard-hitting, that we can tangibly say is important. And that's where we come to things like identifying company priorities. So I'm working with a number of customers that were here today. A few of our customers are here. And again, trying to align that focus first and foremost is the most important thing. We need it to be impactful. So identifying company priorities, maybe it's just cost savings. That's pretty simple, right? But maybe it's also, we've got an attrition rate. Maybe we've got a customer, churn is too high for our customers. Maybe it's because we're starting to see reviews are dropping, whatever it might be, but it allows us to realign that focus and again, have an impactful change, especially when it's externally facing. Determining use cases. So you just went through your first use case. I think gentlemen as well over there said one use case deployed. Was it, again, low complexity, high volume, and that's the first one, right? And you're able to just simply identify that it doesn't matter if you have structured data or not. The first step really isn't the daunting one. It's the one afterwards that's going to start, because that first one is going to have a really, really impactful ROI. Regardless, if you're taking 50% of your call volumes that are password resets for your internal use case, that's going to be a tangible change. But the next ones after that are very data-driven. And then the last one is identifying pain points. And this is something important for your customers especially. And one thing that I don't think companies do enough of today, are looking at customer reviews more and more. Because back on the other slide with posting negative reviews, 75% of the millennials and Gen Xers, Gen Zers, Gen something-ers, that are using phones are willing to go and post those negative reviews. And companies really need to look at it because even if you don't have your wrap-up codes organized and you don't have your data structured in a way that you can say, this is what I need to do, you can pretty easily find out where your customer experience lands when you go and you start looking on Twitter and Reddit and all these other different social media platforms to find out what should we be making change on. And to that point, I think personalization is really key. So with the platforms that we have today, it is easier than ever, even without structured data, because some of it is organized in the platforms that you use, to go and have a personalized approach to your routing models. So now when we get into things like externally facing use cases, implementing a Gen AI to go and start talking to your customers definitely isn't the right approach right now. But identifying personalized routing models, for instance, for the AI to assist and provide guidance, let's say, to your agents. We're not talking about agent assist at this point. We're talking about just a contextual routing where it says, customer A is coming in from this route. We know this about them. and this is what you need to talk to them about. That's a first step that really, again, has a tangible impact. Or next, just at least give some details. And for a more mature model, we have things like lifetime value. I'm not sure if yourselves here today have that type of, those types of KPIs available, but when you do, that also starts changing. How are we going to deal with customer A that's worth $1 million and customer B that's worth $10,000? Right? If there's a range that big. In some cases there are, in some cases there's definitely not. But at least this gives you the ability to also kind of take that step back, not be customer invasive, but be agent enabling. One thing we definitely wanted to talk about is, in the last 2-3 years, we've seen this, and it's really actually since last year with OpenAI popping up, but every company seems to have budget now for AI, which wasn't there before. And now companies are making these moves without necessarily knowing what to do, because even traditional AI, it was still a data-driven approach, or should have been, but it was very transactional in the way that you could go about intents, and that's the self-service steps. So Zoran, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here because you've got a history here that's super.
Yeah, I've been in the industry, developing mostly on the IVR side, from way before. And I think some of the things why these things didn't have that much of the adoption, and I'm not saying they didn't have the adoption, because we're not Gartner that we can go, and scour the industry and collect everything. It's the things that we are facing, and we are facing, small to medium-sized clients. And so far the AI didn't pass the business case, because they have maybe 500 agents or something, so there was too much effort for those companies to introduce something like AI, because when they develop the IVR with touchstones, it's developed, you put it in production, everybody forgets about it, it just works. With the AI, it's a constant improvement. It's training agents, because AI is supposed to help them, so it's helping agents, it's training agents. You have to monitor what's going on in calls, and you have to doing the constant improvement, which is a great customer service, but it's an effort that companies need to put in. And that effort is becoming less expensive, and the resources, and we've heard that from Kore.ai, the prices are dropping, so that effort is there. And we all know that the contact centers in companies are not kind of not on the CFO's radar. It's usually somewhere at the bottom of priorities, at least with the companies that we are dealing with. It's always somewhere towards the end. And that's one of the things, sometimes I get personally annoyed because some of the things, we could never get an API, to integrate, to help contact center. We could never get an API. But all of a sudden now with AI coming in, everyone's so excited, there is money, there's budget, build the APIs, build everything, support it. And that's what's driving the adoption, and what's going to drive the adoption. With ChatGPT, everyone's up in arms. Everyone's talking. All of a sudden, customers are calling us. Oh, what's the AI strategy? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So that's what's happening. And that's what we are seeing. Again, we're not high up to see the whole industry. We are down in trenches. Fighting day to day, and that's what we are experiencing.
And AI strategy, when you said that, what's your AI strategy? What's your go-to-market? What's this? And again, I think it's very important to take a step back to realize, especially when we're working with our customers who maybe have just started dabbling only in the last year or two with traditional AI. I mean, we're talking about just simple self-service use cases where they're just maybe guiding a customer through a chatbot. So that's the level of maturity for a lot of customers today. So when we start looking at these more, a conversational AI or generative AI that's rephrasing, the responses for the start and the end of that response, that's slightly more customizable every time. A lot of customers aren't there yet, but the strategy is still the same. It's take a step back, look at what you've got, identify how we want to go about it from a risk tolerance perspective, so that you don't have situations like the 30% of customers that care about a single interaction being resolved, and you're not fulfilling that. So that's why, going back actually just for a moment to this type of personalization, taking data that is customer data for your routing models, supports this 30% of resolving it within a single interaction. And I expect that this number is going to continue going up. Because as you work with other companies and your competitors become more familiar with their AI and the way that they're going about their AI initiatives and customer experience, this is going to be a number that every customer expects, that single interaction resolution. So how do we really go about that? In the next moment, we're going to be going through and looking at just AI use cases at a glance. So I like this. This is actually from Gartner, if anyone had seen some of the reports. But ambition is great, but feasibility is key. And it really it's supposed to be a light kind of overview and a model that you can use for what should your review about AI look like. And it's really company specific, looking at the technical feasibility, your internal readiness, and external readiness. So this is the opportunity radar that we work with for our customers. Now, the right side is product, service, and core capabilities. Not necessarily talking about that today because it's not CX or CX or internal use cases that are assisting with self-service. There's more product development that might go into that. So that's not what we're looking at. But the left side of the chart is on front office and back office. So if we were to go back to what we were talking about at the start of the presentation, internal use cases that we're seeing definitely pop up. And again, low, medium, high for impact and maturity for deployment. We look at things like HR assistants or payroll assistants. What we rolled out and are building on our core bots for ourselves, as much as we've got the Jira stuff that we're looking at in the future, but we're looking at HR assistants that just simply take our PDFs, tell us exactly what our vacation policies are, look at what it's like and who do we talk to when we need to request time off. That's our first iteration of a bot. Low impact, but it definitely has a little bit of a tinge of how it's going to help the HR team out. But then we get into things like fraud prevention. So what industry are yourselves in? Sorry? A carrier? Oh, okay. Very cool.
I understand completely what you said. The contact center, they never have budget for nothing. And
Yeah.
I work with this, and our goal is trying to increase the experience when you come to the AVR.
Your IVR experience, okay.
Yeah, we try to. Our first focus on this because in your first slide, you mentioned something like a 7-8% have a bad experience in American Express.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand this. I tried to rent a car in the USA in Italy this year. When I tried to pay with my American card, it was denied.
Okay.
Okay, let me make a call and understand why. I spent 30 minutes trying to talk with anyone, and I just give up when they use other card.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, I stopped using American Express.
And you would think that your experience could have been simplified by a few things. One, having an FAQ bot online that you could chat and say, hey, I'm in this country right now, I had a problem, what could it be? That's pretty generic enough that you can find a use case that should solve for that. Or at least the personalization that when you called in, it should have said, hi, I'm not sure your name, but it should have said your name, validated who you are, just because you're calling from a number that's already been registered. It's not like American Express and that team doesn't know. But I do want to point out that wasn't American Express saying that it's their service. That was their statistics and why they're moving towards a personalized approach as well.
In Brazil, we have the same problem. We have a lot of customers use our numbers, our termination routes, etc. And when you try to use their customer service, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You buy something, use something, but when you needed to make a call, it's really great because problem problem is not solving, or you wait 1 hour from the line.
Far too long.
Yeah, and our in Brazil, it's we have one bank. They will start our Kore.ai is trying to increase the quality
Yeah.
in API because they know the 25% of the inbound calls the customer just it's possible to solve the problem offline.
Where I want to go, and just going back then on the why traditional AI didn't work. So if we think about what you just said, not knowing where to go, one of the first use cases that we see as a great opportunity for our customers as well is being able to have that conversational element of what are you trying to solve for? Just try to prompt the customer to know what is capable of being done with this AI, and that's one thing that traditional AI did not do very well. This is how I can help you, this is how I can't help you. And just that level of transparency so that when you're calling in, I know exactly, can I go to a bot for this or can I go somewhere else? And those routes haven't been available until recently, unless you had a ton of money.
And we're starting to see that adoption because some of our clients do not want to put it up front. But at some point of time they say, well, overnight, if somebody calls, the contact center is closed. So what they're doing now, they're putting frequently asked questions, at least, out there. So they're being honest. Up front, they're saying, sorry, our contact center is closed. But you can ask some questions, and we may be able to answer. So they're under-promising, hopefully over-delivering, because they can ask some frequently asked questions and do a little bit of a self-service overnight. So, when in their eyes, it's better to have some service overnight, that's going to serve customers and be upfront about it that the contact center is closed. There is no escalation. If you get stuck, that's it. You can't go to an agent, but you can also schedule a callback for the following morning. So that's one of the things that we see clients doing. Kind of low impact, easy pickings. Introduce it, slowly before it goes kind of big time.
I think, and that's why when we start just switching a little bit to even predictive engagement, is everyone aware of what predictive engagement is in the room? So predictive engagement is being able to go and take data from, let's say, a customer that's browsing your website, take that data in, ingest it, and identify what's the next best route that customer might be able to, for, let's say, it's cart abandonment as a use case. We know that they've been browsing the website for the last 15 minutes. That website, they haven't clicked checkout yet or gone to the checkout, or maybe they went to the checkout and they went back onto the shopping page. So you take all that data, you aggregate it all, and then you find the best time or identify the best time with the AI to create that connection, rather than just simply popping up a screen and saying, hey, would you like to chat when you first go on the website? There's the logic added onto behind that. But the reason, the way that you blend that then with your agents is you take all that data, you pass it over to them, so they know that I was on page about t-shirts for 15 minutes. I added 4 to my cart, I never checked out, and then when I reached out, the agent knows, okay, they might be a little bit hesitant to make a purchase, perhaps it's too expensive, maybe we go with a promotion. So you can start guiding the agent now as well on how do I make that sale. Or in insurance is a great industry that is just starting to use AI more effectively, because relatively difficult vertical to also have investment in CX. But now that they are, it's how do we, one, compete with our competitors? It's provide FAQs in a more responsible way so that people know what our insurance is compared to someone else. When I go to look for insurance personally, all I want to know is what does it solve for? What do the claims look like? I don't need to call someone for that. But one thing that bridges the gap between me being able to have an FAQ and not disrupt the industry that has, let's say, they need to have a broker complete the sale in most cases for insurance, is that you contain or you maintain that handoff. So I go through an FAQ bot. From that FAQ bot, I fill out all my quote data, and then when I get handed off to the agent knows exactly what I've been doing, doesn't waste my time, and I'm far more likely to check out, or in their case, sign up for a policy. So there's a number of use cases, though, that are starting to, the bridging the gap it's a light touch, because you don't need to go all in. or all at once. And you can definitely walk before you run in this world. But it's agent enablement is the biggest thing that we see, at least, is starting to not just disrupt, but be more adopted from our
Well,
customers.
it's becoming mainstream. You know,
Absolutely.
agent assist, call summarization. You know, those are the easy pickings. You know, and they are almost like when we are talking. You know, it kind of goes with almost every customer.
And it's front office enablement. So you're not actually disrupting the customer, you're not disrupting their approach and the way that they interact with your brand, but it's something that's enabling your staff to service them much better. The last part is really talking about quality management, and QM is a very interesting beast to tackle. Only about 2 years ago, I was working with a customer that still sent all of their voice recordings over to a company that listened to all the recordings and then charged them back for it. It ended up being $1 per call. Well, they had 1 million calls or so per year.
That was a good deal.
And yeah, that's a pretty easy ROI as well to start introducing something that's going to be listening to calls and providing sentiment analysis, because that's a lot of money. But this 38% contact center employee attrition, when we talked at the start about just making contact center employee, their jobs that much easier by maybe introducing a welcome message, it's the little things that are going to have a big impact, especially for the back office. So I think, getting into the AI QM, and I just have a little bit of a summary here, because we're going to get back into the attrition part in a moment. But in the two examples, and this is where AI is starting to go, so I just added this together. Both are welcome greetings that you could expect someone starts a conversation off with. Thank you for calling X. It looks like we've already completed your authentication, John. How can I help? Nice and simple. But then there's the second one. Great to hear from you today, John. Authentication seems to be all set up. How can we help? What I'm getting at here is that contact center employees in the next few years are going to be expecting that training is going to be easier. I'm going to be enabled by AI. I'm going to know what my job is right out of the gate. And that onboarding process is going to be much, much simpler. But what happens today with traditional AI is that they're reading from a script. And I don't know if anyone here has been a contact center agent. But when you're reading from that script, if my cadence is a little bit off, I don't like reading from that script. I mean, I want to talk to people because I'm a person. I want to talk to people as a person, and I want to bring my personality to that conversation, even if it deviates from the script. And example A and example B are just as
IVR,
positive.
eh?
Sorry?
You don't want to be an IVR.
I don't want to be an IVR. Yeah. So quality management moving forward is, and this is something that I think generative AI is going to be a very important aspect in making quality management more successful, is having generative AI summaries to go and say, well, script is, the script that we anticipate you to say is X. Generate me 30 different ways in different cadences that this could be said. And all of those are going to be validated as a successful call, which today, if you're not following that script and the sentiment drops in some capacity, that could be a fail. And that person might be reprimanded for something that they didn't do necessarily a bad job on. And that's where AI QM is going to really have an impact with the generative aspect. And it'll be able to enable agents and managers alike, because we're not getting rid of AI quality assurance managers. They're still sticking around. They're not going anywhere. You need people to be able to add that personalization to a review. And on top of that, the ability to hold the AI responsible for what they're doing for your agents. Looked like you had something to say, Zoran. Your thoughts on AI QM, though?
No, no, go ahead.
Now, the attrition, and this is about the self-service piece as well. Low-hanging fruit, but agent enablement, agent assist, knowledge workbenches, all of which are things that should be worked on today. They are low-hanging fruit, but it does do exactly what we're trying to focus on with Jira, which is creating a common repository of information that all of our agents, or in our case, support staff, are able to support customers with. And it's something that it simplifies the onboarding process, and it also, we think, it's going to make agents more comfortable staying at a company for longer. I think the average cost of re-onboarding someone right now is about the same as their annual salary. So if it's a contact center agent, that's about $45,000 to $55,000, depending on your location, and that's the cost of re-onboarding someone else. Let alone getting into the complexities of, let's say, we're bilingual support staff, and being able to help agents out with multilingual support, because you can't hire multilingual agents. It's just that is a very difficult prospect in its own right. But AI QM is something that we think is going to help with this attrition rate as well. And if you are looking at doing anything in the future, the ability to use these products now to take individual interactions, break it up into multiple sub-segments, and then based off of the welcome that's set in a generative, and evaluated against a generative summary of what's a proper welcome, evaluating how they get to a sale, all those little snippets of that conversation itself are going to be able to be validated and scored in the future. That definitely helps this attrition rate because people are going to stop feeling like they're just a bot that's sitting, sitting in that seat. And instead, the company actually values myself and me for my personalized approach for working with their customers. Overall, and we can share this, the important and the real takeaway is using something like these opportunity radars, especially as you start going about your AI strategy. What's going to have a hard-hitting impact? What can we use for internal or external facing use cases that are either enabling our agents, or enabling our customers? And what has the biggest impact? I think we've gone through most of it. Zoran, unless you've got something else.
No, it's time for shameless self-promotion for StarTelecom.
That's pretty much it. So we do go through AI in a very pragmatic way. Our approach to it is something that our customers, we're already seeing adoption from even not having the maturity level of using traditional AI to starting to evaluate companies like Kore. We had 2 customers that were at this conference this week that are already looking at Kore to move forward with. And it's because we want to take a very slow but methodical approach to their onboarding of AI so that they know that their execs know that when they go through this implementation, it's going to be hard-hitting and it's going to get to the bottom line of what they're trying to improve for this year and beyond. But that's what we do at Star. The last little thing, and you mentioned that you're a carrier, so we're a telephony provider ourselves. And what we do is try to bridge the gap between contact centers and conversational AI solutions with SIP. That's something that we haven't necessarily seen been done so far, and we're trying to make it so that it's also an easier handoff technically, so that customers can onboard these other platforms and know that maybe they're not being charged double, whatever that might be, for SIP handoffs and sessions. But I think that's it. Really appreciate everyone sticking around for the presentation. Thank you so much for being involved.
Thank you very much.